currently 4:30 a.m. Just finished getting in check-in at Gatwick and got some food. It's very early. I'm on 2.5 hours of sleep. I had to wake up at 2:30 to come to the airport. But I'm very excited to be in Sicily. Finally, after many hours of travelling, we arrived in the beautiful Castellamare del Golfo in the north of Sicily. This, I have to say, I think maybe one of the most beautiful places I've ever visited in my entire life. It is incredible. I feel like I've stepped into a Fellini film. It's incredible. I'm here with 2 other friends. We're actually waiting for our last friend to arrive. She flew in a lot later from Germany, but we're here. We spent a nice afternoon at the beach, checked into our Airbnb, and had some great Italian food. I thought I would do a bit of a reading update with you guys, also show you some of the books that I brought on holiday. We're here for a week. I don't think I'm going to finish all of these, maybe just 1 or 2, but we will see. Before that, I'd like to say that actually Penguin sent me the 3rd and final copy of their new Maigret collection. This is Maigret's holiday, and I brought it with me as obviously it's quite fitting seeing as I'm on holiday. I also apologise for my voice. I have a bit of a summer cold, I'm coughing, and I have a bit of a runny nose, which is not ideal for being on holiday, but oh well. For the past week and a bit, I've been reading Dracula by Bram Stoker. I'm about 200 pages in, and I was reading this because I went to Whitby and a lot of the story is based in Whitby. But for the purposes of this holiday, I think I'm going to take a break and pick it back up when I go back to France. Quite a gloomy, dark read, and I'm kind of wanting something a bit easier and a bit lighter to be reading while I'm on holiday in Sicily. So I picked up Find Me by Andre Asselman. This is the sequel to Call Me By Your Name. A lot of people don't know about it. I've only read about 35 pages this morning, and I couldn't read on the plane because it was way too early. I was too tired, I had to sleep. And I read a bit on the train journey we had to get here. Quite liking it so far. The story hasn't really kicked off, but we'll see how it goes. So I apologize for the noise. It's about 6:30 p.m. and obviously everyone is waking up from their siestas. I am continuing to read Le Rouge et Noir for my boyfriend by Stendhal. This is his favorite book and I'm reading it for him, but it's quite difficult and it's archaic French. We'll see how this goes. I don't really think I'm going to be picking up this holiday. I have no idea actually when I'm going to read it, but we're going to see. Now, just to say slightly intellectual, I have brought a short introduction on Plato. Not sure if I'm going to get to this. I brought this I usually bring a lot of books on holiday because I prefer to have more than not have enough. Whilst I was skiing actually, I ran out of books and it was really bad and I had to go and try and find a book to read and I ended up reading a book I didn't like and I found a random one in a bookshop. So I now prepare and I bring a lot with me. And I finally brought Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier. This is really just that if I finish Find Me and Maigret's holiday during this week, I'll probably read this. So we are currently at the ancient town of Segesta, which is in the north of Sicily. It is absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most well-preserved Doric temples that exist. It's incredible. So the reason this temple is in Doric style is if you guys see at the top with the friezes, it's all to do with the type of frieze that there is. I'm a classics nerd, so I'm like freaking out because this is the first like classical temple that I've actually visited in my life, and this is insane. So the reason this is Doric is because with the friezes, which is a piece of art in metapaes that runs along the top of the temple, it is split by something called tragus, which is the 3 little line thing that you see. And the reason it's Doric is because it's split up by these. When you have the other style of classical temple, which is Ionic, they are just one continually flowing type of artwork, which usually depicts a long scene. Which, for example, if you look at the Parthenon, you have the War of the Humans versus the Centaurs, that kind of thing. I mean, for me, this is just insane. Like, look at the countryside that surrounds us. And then you come here and you have this temple. Like, imagine you come up here every day to pray when, you know, back in the 1st century, and you have this surrounding you. I mean, I really see why. Wow. You know, people often praise the Greeks and the Romans for their culture, their thought, for everything that they came up with, you know, and how they're beautiful and beautiful architecture and ideas that they had. But it's also important to remember that the Greeks and the Romans were incredibly violent and brutal, and they were power hungry and pretty freaking evil sometimes. Yeah, and despite praising them for everything they did, you must remember that these are people that destroyed thousands, and I say thousands, of cultures and people, and enslaved, you know, an incredible multitude of people simply due to the belief that they were superior because of the culture that they had. And people often forget that and just praise the beauty and, you know, the art and culture and work that came out of Greece and Rome. But it's important to remember that these were quite barbaric people. And I think this temple, although absolutely stunning, kind of represents that they came to a land where they were not welcome, which had a different culture from their own, and stated their own culture simply off of the belief that these people were savages and that they needed kind of saving, which is obviously a big reflection of the Christian missions that went to Africa in the time of slavery. It's kind of an ancient representation of that this temple has here. You know, the idea that they are superior, therefore they have the right to insert their culture into somewhere where it's not particularly welcome. I don't know where we chose to walk. It's so hot and steep. Now this is kind of the dilemma that I have, that I also had with Call Me By Your Name, is that for me, Andre Aciman writes some of the most beautiful prose I've ever written. There's this incredible section which I read, which is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read. And it says, of course I have a secret, we all do. Each of us is like a moon that only shows a few facets of the earth, but never its full sphere. Most of us never meet those who will understand our fully rounded self. I show people only that sliver of me which reflects itself well. I show others other slices, but there's always a facet of darkness I keep to myself. I mean, how incredible is that? But then, bro has to go and chuck in the most random pieces of smut and like sex, but not even like sex, it's like graphic, like descriptions of a woman like clenching. I'm like, I don't want to read that. Also, spoiler, but there's basically a woman in this book tries to sleep with her own brother. Is that necessary, mate? Like, I just don't understand why it's in there, because it just it doesn't even feel natural. It just feels really forced, and I suspect I spoke to my boyfriend about it because he also is a big reader, and I was like, I don't understand why he'd put this in. To be honest, he made a good point. It's probably just to make sales because people like to buy smart books now, which is very sad. Thank you, anti-intellectualism. Why? I feel like it ruins my reading experiences and it ruins the book, because I'm just reading. Like, I go from reading that incredible something like that, or beautiful descriptions, or, you know, really one thing Andre Aciman does really well is create scenery. Like, I chose to read this book whilst in Italy because I feel like I'm in Italy when I read this book. I mean, I literally am, but do you know what I mean? I just don't understand why he does that, because if I'm being fully honest, it ruins the book for me. It really does. I would much prefer, I understand that it's romance, and I understand that love and, you know, lost love and time is a big theme for him. I just don't think it adds anything. If anything, it takes away, and I would much prefer the book that didn't have that in it. Andre Aciman, if you ever watched this video, take notes.
I'm joking. Who am I? Who am I to tell a great author to make notes? I saw online that he has a collection of essays, and I think I might be more interested in reading that because I like his writing, just not his smut. So I might look into buying some of his essays. Also, he obviously has an obsession with, you know, people in relationships older than themselves, which also I'm like, okay, but every single book, well, I mean, I can't say every single, I mean, it is the copy of the sequel of Call Me By Your Name. I don't know. Also, I don't know how I feel about the structure. Essentially, the first half is about Elio's father, which I'm like, all right, and then the second half is about Elio. Apparently, there's Oliver in this, but I guess he'll have to be in the last 50 pages because I don't know. But apparently, Oliver's in this. I guess he's gonna have to be in the last 50 pages because I don't see him anywhere. But also the first half of the book was a bit confusing because they never clarified who Samuel was, like very clearly, because he never said his son was Elio. He just said he had a son. And if I'm gonna be honest, I did not realize. And I had to Google who is Samuel, and I was like, oh, it's Elio's father.